Welcome to the edge of innovation in the production industry. This is Tech Talk, where technology, creativity, and strategy collide.
So you might ask, well, what is a truck doing on Tech Talk? I saw it as a bit of a stretch myself, but what we realized, and which Jahmai has been saying, is that there's a lot of tech that goes into these vehicles, as much as anything else on the market. And
You have a flip screen, if you notice, or like our BYD that we tested, the screen can go from like portrait to landscape. And I think that's crazy. So
Yeah.
I think with all the instrument cluster now, everything's kind of going digital. You could
Yeah.
control it from your phone. So to me, it's like it's hard to even call it a car anymore. It's like you're driving,
Yeah.
a device, in my
Yes.
opinion.
It comes with a battery, just like your smartphone.
Yeah.
So
So we spent the day driving a BYD. We went up the highway, did some little off-roading. Now, Carl, I'll pass this one on to you now. So being a man who has sampled many different, cars from different classes, what was your first impression getting into this truck?
So I was actually quite impressed. I think for me, what struck me at first was the price point. And I said, well, okay, I can understand that this is not exactly competing with other trucks in the category, which would be like, let's say, a Hilux or like a Frontier. So when I got in, I kind of understood why. There is a lot of tech. There is the screen. There's a lot of things that's touch, but also there are buttons, which I actually liked. And that was probably one of the things I didn't love about the Tesla that I had rented a while back, is that everything seemed to be hidden behind like a screen.
Okay,
right?
okay.
This had buttons, it had like rockers, and so it still felt like a car, like a more traditional
Yeah.
vehicle in a lot of ways.
What class level would you put it? Because I know sometimes you could buy, especially in Belize, right? You have like the work version or like the stripped down.
Yeah.
Then you have the more premium version. Your first impressions, where would you put this in that kind of experience?
Yeah, so the fit and finish was like premium for sure. It definitely belongs in a class of cars that cost more. When I looked at the rear view camera, the quality of that was as good as anything I've seen from like very recent model years in like much higher end vehicles.
I would be curious to see what the lower end if the lower end would have been a less experience, because this one felt like really premium.
Yeah.
You
I mean,
know,
I think the fit and finish
yeah.
again, like, so I mean, the leather,
Yeah.
like stitching, everything just felt pretty good. Like, it
How
just
how
felt
would you
good.
compare this to the new Prado?
Well, actually, that's an interesting comparison, and that is a vehicle that's a higher price vehicle, considered to be in a higher bracket. It's very similar, actually. It's similar. I wouldn't say it's better, but it is very similar. It's a different style, but as far as the feel of it, it's premium materials, and so I think when I understood that, it was like, okay, this is a different kind of experience I'm getting into. Also, it was just like it's a heavy vehicle, so it sits on the road quite well. I did enjoy the drive. I felt like it was pretty responsive, like all around.
Okay.
Sound system was pretty good,
Yeah. We had fun testing out in the city. We went downtown a little bit, and then we did the off-road. What would you say was your favorite part? Where do you say it handles the best?
I feel like it was pretty well behaved on like all fronts. We did do a fair amount of driving on the highway, which I thought was a pretty good indicator, because whoever's going to get this vehicle is going to want to go out and do things with it. So I felt, again, the steering was pretty responsive. There's different modes as well, from sport to eco. It makes a big difference in how the car feels. I would say that generally it's a confidence inspiring ride. You kind of know what to expect on any one path. But I did find it surprisingly fun on the highway too. So I think as a highway vehicle, to go different places in the country, like this would be like a very nice ride.
The look of it, what kind of impressions it gives you?
So I think at first I wasn't really sure what to think. And then I started to, approach it from different angles, kind of understand how the whole design worked. And while it's a sort of almost futuristic type of design, it's also just like boxy. And so it's like rugged. So it's not like it's trying too hard to be futuristic, which I think is nice. It works. I think that it's not like they were trying too hard, I guess, which is good. Sometimes some vehicles kind of go overboard. So I think it's still approachable. I think a lot of people would find it agreeable, if that makes sense. So you're not gonna like turn much guys off. You know what I mean? It's still pretty.
I wouldn't say like it's trying to make a statement with the look of it. It almost feel like it's trying to not stand out too much. If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, exactly. I think they're trying to do something new with their own design language, but they're not trying too hard. And yes, you're right. They're trying to still, I think, fit it in the category and make it
Yeah.
a real alternative. Which again, I think it's a smart move. It's a business move. I don't think it's gonna turn off much people.
So for me, let's say if I would buy a BYD, I would probably definitely do some custom work on it to kind of make it, give it that edge.
It's a good point.
I think that's what I personally would do. So like I think maybe as like it's a nice generic start base for it, and then I would maybe do some custom looks to it. So of course this truck is not a full EV. It's a hybrid, which I think is a smart way for people to transition into it, because I think that they would have adopted the full EV a lot less than this partition, because I don't think Belize still isn't fully where we need to be to have like a fully electric EV and not have what they call range anxiety. So what's your thoughts on how does the hybrid versus full EV benefit?
So I think personally, this is the best sort of mix for anybody looking to get into electric vehicles at all. So it's known as a plug-in electric vehicle, and this is actually how you're going to be using it most of the time. And I think this is what dawned on me as I was using the vehicle. Most people don't need a lot of range every day. So I think on the battery itself, you just want to do, and people market it like this as such as well, that you could just run it on EV in the city, come back home, plug it in overnight, you're good to go the next day, you do it again.
One spell we were running on only EV, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So there's different modes.
Yeah.
So we tried them all. We tried the EV only, which admittedly is a bit sluggish. Also, I found that it seemed to run out of juice quicker than it said it would. So it gives you like an indication of how much kilometers there is left. But I found that in practice, it drained a bit faster. So we then eventually switched into the hybrid mode, which was pretty good, I would say. The power was pretty good. It wasn't like mind-blowing. But then when I put on the sport mode and it combines, the gas engine with the batteries, with the motors, it's actually pretty fast, almost like sports car fast. It's pretty good, handles pretty well, and that is probably the best way to use it in that hybrid, because apparently too in that mode your engine and braking and stuff like that does recharge, so you can get crazy numbers from what we were told. 700 plus kilometers, I think is what they were saying, if you do like the combined. We did learn as well that there are a fair amount of charging stations around the country. But again, I don't see much people using those. I really see, like me, I think to envision myself owning something like this.
Just plug it in at home.
Yeah, plug it in at home and that's it. And then you go on a long trip, you put in some gas, you make sure there's gas in there.
Yeah.
And you're good. And then let's say you run out, you can just put more gas in at any regular gas station. So I think with that, it makes a lot of sense.
So I think the viewers, you guys have some questions to ask yourself, some serious questions. Do I hold out with combustion engines that's proven until they perfect it or the transition is fully? Or do I jump in now and invest in this transitionary vehicle that has a little bit of both? So that's a really good question, because a vehicle for a lot of people is a big investment.
Yeah. I think one thing that makes it more palatable too is dealership support. And I can't really stress that enough. I think anyone who's buying a vehicle like this, who's spending this amount of money on a vehicle, especially on technology that is not quite, known in this area, it's good to have dealer support. So I think that's actually another strong point for me as to why I would consider a vehicle like this.
In terms of just the overall experience, it's definitely a fun experience. You had the nice stereo, and it's definitely a thing where a bunch of friends can go and have a great afternoon. We had a great time. We had a great afternoon. It was comfortable. We enjoyed the off-road parts. The question now, I guess, would be your first impression. Who would you say with this vehicle would be for?
So it's an interesting question, because this vehicle doesn't neatly fit into any category in a sense, especially when you consider the price point, which I believe was something around 160,000 Belize dollars, landed, duty paid, everything. Again, this is the highest trim level. The vehicles that are the same size, roughly, they cost tens of thousands of dollars less. And the vehicles that have the sort of trim that this has is like several tens of thousands of dollars new, more. So I think to an extent, you have to want an EV, first of all. So I think whoever buys this vehicle is someone that is environmentally conscious. I think there is something to be said for the practicality of it, in the sense that you actually can get savings by driving around on just the battery. So you can actually save a lot. They gave us a figure, but it was like considerably less than gas, right? So that's a consideration too, about, you know, how much can you save over the course of the lifetime of the vehicle. I think the big questions are just still, okay, how reliable is it and for how long? You have the support from the dealer, which is good, but you know, it's untested in Belize. So I think there's still a little bit of skepticism there. But I think it's an interesting vehicle, but I think the problem is it might have too many competitors. But I think it's definitely somewhere between a mid-sized truck and a full-size truck and a luxury vehicle all in one.
So if you're in the truck market, you like trucks and you want to buy a new vehicle and you want to spend considerably less gas on the road,
Yeah.
you know, especially for like shorter runs,
Mhm.
then this is definitely the truck, you know, for
Yeah.
you in that case.
It's
Yeah.
very well behaved too. And I
Yeah.
think you kind of hit it a bit just now. It's definitely for a customer that is not just using it for work. It's definitely something that is like a lifestyle type vehicle. It's something that you can drive around in and feel comfortable and feel that you're in something premium. So it's a interesting combination of things that, as you mentioned, is not really available like that at that price point in Belize.
Yeah.
And it's a hybrid.
With Ignite, you know, we got the production team. We're always on the road, but then we also have a lot of short trips too. So I think for a scenario, you know, a situation like us, you know, we have a small business, we need to move around people and equipment.
Yeah.
This is a really nice, you know, it's a really nice investment for that. And again, the
Yeah.
price too, we save, if, you know, if we want to be future thinking, future proof it, this is a good option. If we want to conserve on gas, it's a really good option too.
Yeah.
You know, so it definitely has a lot of strong points. We really enjoyed it. I enjoyed the ride. I enjoyed the experience.
Yeah, no, it was in the city. It was very well behaved as well. Again, predictable. I think at first, because of the boxing nature of it, it felt a little bigger. But then after a little while, I realized, no, it still is a mid-size. Because I think I mentioned this to you originally. I said, oh, this is not quite a mid-size. It's like above a mid-size and it's smaller than a full size. But the more I drove it, the more I was like, no, this is a mid-size for sure. So
Yeah.
it looks a little chunkier, but it's offering you the same sort of mid-size experience. But again, I think with suspension and tuning, it's very well behaved. It's a nice ride like everywhere you are, which I think is a big plus, especially in Belize City where there's lots of potholes and in other places too. So.
Yeah, I'm really excited for the future of where we're going. You know, EVs and this infrastructure is slowly making their way into Belize.
Yep.
BYD right now is probably the biggest game in town, but you know it won't be the only game. And I think I for one love competition.
Yeah.
And I think we're going in a right direction.
This has been Tech Talk with Carlo Jahmai and Jahmai Trap. If you like this content and want more, like and follow us on the channels below. Thank you for listening.